Despite our best efforts to be super professional
you would
here.
never think that you could actually hurt yourself getting prepared for a podcast.
Why do I
But
feel like
for some
it's
reason, I
because this
always,
monitor is so
when I
close.
pull the mic over, I always put my finger in this little, you don't need to know all that. So
People like to just say stuff about our. We have a lot of microphones,
we do have a lot of we have a
but we
lot of
do a lot of
cameras, a lot of
talking.
microphones.
We do a lot of
You
talking.
have to be set. Um, Last night, I was doing a podcast with the illustrious Peter
Wait a minute.
Hayward.
You're doing a podcast without me?
I know.
Wow.
It's under your brand though.
Yikes.
It's under the brand that you own that we
So
all serve you.
you're moonlighting with a different co-host?
Yes, yes.
Peter Hayward, you say?
The one and only
The
Peter Hayward, the
illustrious?
illustrious Peter Hayward.
I will allow it only because it's Peter Hayward. I would not allow you to go off with
And and,
any other podcast
and my
host.
point was going to be that all of the guests that we've had on so far are amazing.
This
But
is
there is
Future Pod X. Future
Future
Pod
Pod
X.
X,
Yeah.
but the variance of microphones is
Uh,
vast.
it's funny because
I can't. I'm not. It's not an
no,
insult.
it's
You
not.
can't all have
Listen,
the microphone
listen,
I have.
listen. This studio setup, obviously an investment. We all know why we did this, back in the day. So many parallels though, when you think about 2025 and compared to 2020. So many parallels, sadly,
Sadly, so many
sadly.
parallels. Yeah. It just
But
keeps
yes,
going. Just keeps
one of
going.
the outcomes of that dark period was that we made the decision to invest not only in the studio setup, but in our regular desks outside of the studio here, outside those doors.
Yes.
We also, they're not like prohibitively expensive, the microphones. I'm only mentioning this because
Yeah.
like
Still.
people are still
Yeah.
like, well, first of all, they say, is that background real?
I was gonna say
So
that. I've said this before, but it's like
can you demonstrate? Just go out back
you
there and just
literally
touch
could.
something.
Yeah. Actually, I don't even have to. If you look right in the middle, right there. Why would I want my finger going right
Well,
place?
they could still be a picture.
Look at that. Yvette and Frank as Funko
I
Pops.
like that you actually did
You
my
have to
skin
do.
tone was accurate there.
I tried.
Yeah.
I was going to order this. I just made mine pale, translucent, and then I made yours with melatonin. Melanin.
Melanin.
Because
Also,
I took melatonin last night, so I'm thinking about the melatonin.
and we're both holding microphones too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yours,
sorry. We'll,
I have a guitar and you have a coffee
if
cup.
there's anybody
But
new on here, they're like, what have
yeah,
I
it's like I
stumbled
thought this was
upon?
going to be a cool podcast, but
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
what is happening right now. Well, welcome everyone
To
to another edition of the Wicked Opportunities Live. And as we promised, we're going to get back to our regular podcasting pretty soon, but have never stopped doing the live. We do it once a month.
never stop, don't stop.
Don't stop, can't stop believing. And it's our favorite. We've said this before, but we love to get on here because the podcast we sort of, we do show notes and all this. I've got some stuff in front of me, but I'm going to tell you that I don't know how much I'll be able to stick to it because I'm live and I'm with Yvette, and those two things put together means chaos ensues.
I've gotten much more comfortable with the live environment. Listen, we're not your average content creator influencers that just will go live on a whim. Like clearly this is orchestrated. We have a registration form. Like it's a whole thing, right? I mean, I believe the younger generation would sort of scoff at our
Yeah, it's like,
impromptu live
all right,
stream.
boomers.
Yeah. We like have
I'm not a boomer. I'm an Xer. I'm a Gen Xer.
we have a content calendar where these are planned months in advance. Each one has its own visual description, you name it. So, but I will say that, it's live. So
Yeah.
there's no edits to this
No,
afterwards.
just cut loose.
And that can be dangerous. That could be great. And it could also be dangerous.
Yeah.
And there was also like this early on, the technology of like going live was always for me a little bit nerve-wracking. But
Yeah.
now I'm like,
You're
whatever.
just like, yeah.
I mean, listen, if this isn't what you expect, I'll guarantee you a full refund of your $0 that you've spent to join us.
Yeah.
So
So
not
it
to be
is
certain.
going to be what you expect, or if it's not, it's still going to be impactful for you, I
Yeah.
think. Um, because last month we on our live,
Yes.
we did what we considered to be our most important message ever to date.
It was a good live stream.
Yeah.
If you didn't see that one, it was the future will
No,
oh yes, it was. Go
future
ahead.
as resistance.
Well, no, but I was
Yeah.
talking about the name of it
Oh, the future will not
will
be
not be televised.
televised.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
comes from the famous um,
Which PS,
poem song.
I'm not saying I'm not saying that a Super Bowl halftime performer may have watched our live stream and gotten the idea for his halftime performance entrance, but I am saying the parallels are clear. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
And what did he start with? This person that you won't name, I think the name was Lindrick Kamar. Jumps up on a car and says the revolution will not be televised or will be televised.
Will
He
be
said
televised.
will be
Will be
televised. Will be
televised.
televised.
Anyway, so that was our live stream last month.
Yes, and what I was going to say about that is that that message was pretty heavy because we talked about foresight being a form of resistance, a strong form of resistance. As a matter of fact, I was looking at a post this morning from another illustrious friend of ours, the um, all-encompassing and air-sucking Sohail Inyatullah, because when he enters the room, there's nobody but Sohail.
There is it is he is the
I'm going to send this to him. So.
no, I was gonna say that he is this is not true, but I'll say it just because again it's live and it's whatever popped in my head. But I was gonna say he's like the
Yeah,
Kardashians
yeah,
of
yeah.
the foresight. Like
That's
it
good.
is like everybody sort of turns their head, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just
Gonna have to
saying.
take a second look when I see Sohail next time.
Well, we all know that you have a bromance with Sohail. Let's be clear. They text each other.
He's such a sweet guy. He's one of the best.
Yeah.
And he was talking about neuro foresight this morning, that our
Oh yeah.
brains are set up for foresight. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, one of our good friends, Katrina Mitchell, was like, I read this list of the reasons our brain is set up for foresight, and I feel like, neurodivergent people are even, they're made for foresight. They're literally foresight machines.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, even if you just talk about pattern recognition
Yeah.
alone
That's
is
so true.
so interesting. It's so
So
interesting.
the relationship was, just the fact that it's interesting to see the comments on the post and what he was posting and how much foresight itself is set up to be this voice and thought and mindset and heart set and soul set for us to move forward together. And when I say together, I don't just mean humans, but everything. I said on my
Mhm.
podcast last night, the connection between air and human and grass and fungi and rabbit and banana, are this, it's all encompassing all
Yeah.
those voices, right? And so foresight is the perfect form of activism, of resistance. It's like, how are we imagining what is coming? How do we use our anticipation to imagine the end of one world and the beginning of the other? And I know that I want to talk a lot about today about the future being dead too.
Yeah. I was going to say that if you didn't get a chance to listen to last month's, I would definitely check out the recording, and we dropped it in the chat because what we've heard from folks since that went out was that it was exactly the message they needed. And we're so happy to hear that it provided some solace, some inspiration, maybe a kick in the pants. For those of us that are like, God, we're watching this sort of happen in front of our eyes. And, for us, we asked ourselves, what do we bring to this fight, and what are our skills, and what can we offer? And it's obvious to us that foresight practitioners and futurists and foresight professionals are, they're uniquely positioned to shepherd the type of transformation that's required. And so we talked about that in the last podcast. We also talked about the 3.5% number. And I think that 3.5% rule, I want to remind ourselves that the entire year as we enter into what we're calling Defying Gravity, the
So
year of
important.
Defying
Yeah.
Gravity. We'll talk a little bit about
Mm,
what we mean about the year of Defying Gravity, but the 3.5% rule is that if we can activate 3.5% of our network, of our community, we can topple systems, which is what's required here. And so it can seem overwhelming. It can seem as if, we are on the losing side of things right now. And we're gonna coach and counsel all of you and ourselves, not just
especially.
through this,
Yeah.
but with empowerment and agency to create a better future. And we just need to activate 3.5% of the people that we can influence. So our goal is to influence 3.5% of you, and for you all to influence 3.5% of those that trust you. And we'll talk today about what that looks like tactically and practically. It's not just about a live stream once a month to offer inspiration, but more, we want to create a framework by which we walk alongside each other this whole year. We defy the gravity well of this negative onslaught and this horrible onslaught on democracy and on marginalized communities and all of that. This future that we don't want. Nobody wants this future, honestly. And so we want to talk to you about how we do that. And so we're excited for you all to join us on that journey. It's going to involve looking a little bit to the past
Yes.
and recovering some things from the past, and then entering into our own strength as futurists
Yes,
and having
absolutely.
the courage to do that and knowing that you're not alone, because we already have a community of people that are excited about moving forward and not just fighting fires, but truly creating transformational change.
Well said. Well said. Um, I know before we jumped on today that you were semi-joking, but I thought that it was relevant for our time together today. That we sort of have an internal joke that came. All companies and groups of people have
Mhm.
their legacy
Inside
jokes,
jokes. Yeah.
insider
Yeah.
jokes, and one of ours around here was, I forget when it was, but it was many years ago. It might have been the beginning of the
It
pandemic.
could have been. It could have been in the pandemic years, and I'll take
Yeah,
ownership of this. Because
yeah,
I remember. I don't remember the exact timing, but I do remember having a conversation with you.
yeah.
And
I'm gonna go on record as saying that the best things that we do at our company come from you.
uh,
Funniest jokes come from
well,
you.
that's probably true. So yeah. So
Silliest memes come
I
from
was
you.
I was remembering this today when we were sort of getting in the mindset to be with you all this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are. And I remember it was in the midst of something. I don't even know if it was like a macro thing or just we were, entrepreneurs. It's feast or famine sometimes, and there's challenging things that we face. We all do, personally, professionally, and certainly now societally. But it was at a moment of like sort of like we were sort of a little bit down and out. And I said, because we talk about obviously one of our values here at TFSX has always been to have a mindset of abundance. And we're going to talk about abundance actually as we go along this journey,
Yeah.
this wicked opportunities journey.
Yes.
And I said to you, and at the time, I was not trying to be funny. I need to be really clear here.
That was my original point.
Yeah.
None of these things are meant to be funny,
No, no, no. I
but they
wasn't
become legacy jokes
right.
within the
I wasn't
companies.
trying to be funny. I was earnestly like just reaching out to you, like give me a hand here. And I said to you, it's really hard to be abundant when things are not abundant. And I thought I really slayed with that statement. I thought that was a revolutionary thought that I
Yeah.
was having. Like, how do you expect me to be abundant and
Yeah.
optimistic when I am surrounded with scarcity?
Yeah.
And you were so
Somehow
like,
either is actually said this way or it became, it's hard to think abundantly when you're
yes,
not surrounded by
yeah,
abundance. So it's
yeah.
like, I think the point of thinking abundantly is like you're supposed to be doing it maybe even especially when things aren't
Yeah,
abundant.
despite and especially,
Yeah.
yeah. And so
It's
similarly,
when it's not when the abundance isn't right there, it's hard for me to
it's
have a
hard.
mindset
It's
of
hard,
abundance.
how do you want me to think abundantly
The funny
when
thing about
we
this
have a
is
dearth of abundance?
it's true. It's true. We all do this, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's really hard for us to break away from what is pulling at us,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
sort
yeah.
of the vortex of the gravity well of what's
Mhm.
around us.
So you're saying we have to defy gravity. I
Yes.
mean, I would want nothing more than to play some Wicked songs, but YouTube really, really does
Ooh,
not
they crack
like,
down on that stuff. They
does
might not even like you saying the word
I
wicked.
know they do not like that copyright
Yeah, they
infringement.
don't
So,
like it.
so
But we were talking about this before, and of course, another. I know there's a lot of other futurists on here, but I know for sure the illustrious futurist Nicole Baker Rosa is on here, and she is a big Wicked Broadway
yes,
Wicked
she actually
fan.
sent me a quote. She's like, you may want to say this, lyrics. So I don't know if we're allowed to say it. I know we can't sing it, but anyway,
We'll get to
let
it.
us be glad. Let us be grateful. Let us rejoicify that goodness could subdue the wicked workings of you know who. Isn't it nice to know that good will conquer evil? The truth we all believe by and by outlive a lie for you and I.
This actually perfect because this ties into exactly what I was going to say. If you are familiar with the story of Wicked, if you watch the just the normal Wizard of Oz, of course the Wicked Witch was a wicked witch and she's the bad guy and they dissolved her and they got rid of her and everybody wins. And
So interesting.
in that one though, the Wizard of Oz was a little bit of a huckster, but he was a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
Mm.
He just lost his way a little bit. But in Wicked, they spin that a little bit and they say, like, wait a second, it turns out that the Wizard of Oz is like a real douchebag. Um, you might say a dictatorial jerk, and he poses as having all this power, but he reinforces the dominant narrative and all this, and he needs her because she was the most powerful
Mm.
magician in all the land,
Yep.
and so they turn her into a wicked witch. The zeitgeist becomes that she's wicked, right?
Hmm.
But she's like, I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm resisting the dominant narrative. I'm breaking away. I'm defying gravity. And if you want to find me, look to the western sky. It's like I'm not staying here. I'm going to a different place. And the bottom line here is this is such a great metaphor for tying in. This is why we start off saying go listen to the last one if you didn't,
Yeah.
because foresight as resistance is so important because we are built for that. But we're not going to get there if what we're trying to do is build something good on top of this gravity well that keeps pulling us back in to
Yeah.
the message that it, by its very nature, needs to and must promote
Yeah.
so that it can maintain relevance and maintain control, and you'll never break free from that gravity well. You will not. Last night on the uh, podcast that we were recording, our guest was another amazing futurist that I met 25 years ago when I first started all of this. She was probably getting her start too, was Rowena Morrow in Australia. And she was our guest on the podcast last night. And she was saying, one of the things that helped me to see this very thing of defying gravity was that I had to start accepting hospicing modernity. And I don't know if anybody on here has read the famous book Hospicing Modernity, but it's like we have to put to death the thing that is a gravity well that will never be able to shake loose just by saying like I'm trying to incrementally do better.
Yeah.
And this is a tough message, but don't worry, we're going to get there in a few minutes. I
Yeah.
know that I'm laying a heavy on everybody. Like, what do you want me to do, Frank? Just drop my life,
Yeah. Yeah.
So hold on, but she was saying that like I even went into um, work for an organization of death doulas, so that I could be around death so much that I would understand that it's
Yikes.
something to accept and embrace, and how to hospice this because we need to hospice modernity, and that's what foresight is doing all the time.
Yeah.
It's saying here's what's emerging, here's
Got to
what's changing.
unlearn it.
But you cannot move into transformation without first hospicing the old. You cannot defy gravity without first getting rid of gravity.
Yeah. I would say too that I think in the current environment, and this was the video I had shared with you earlier, it's really powerful because I think, I hear what you're saying. I think some people might take that as, well, yeah, I'm trying to put out the fires. I am, going toe to toe in the
Yes.
comment section against people who are trying to take our rights.
And
And
good for them. I mean,
yeah,
it's like, and I mean that sincerely.
yeah.
It's like you're doing better than me.
But I think it's troubling, right? And it's
Yeah.
problematic. And
Yes.
here's why.
Yes.
I saw a creator make a really powerful point here, and she's not a futurist, but she was speaking as a foresight professional. And what she said was, I know it's tempting, and I know in some ways our endorphins fire off when we go toe to toe and try to fight the good fight to counteract and extinguish and debate people who are
Mm,
oppressive or trying to take away rights or doing the things that we're seeing across the world, especially now in the US. I know it's tempting, and it does, even though it stresses us out, it does fire off endorphins. She said be careful.
mm.
Be careful expending all your energy workshopping their future, workshopping
Workshopping their future.
their dystopic future.
Mm,
Okay? Because two things happen. Not only are you now workshopping their future when you're rehearsing it, when things start to go in that way, if they do, it's like falling down a hill. The gravity will take you there because you've already rehearsed it. You've spent so much time workshopping their dystopic future that it's unconsciously and subconsciously the future that you lean into. So when things start to go down a path even further, you just coalesce, you just go along with it.
yes.
That's number one. Number two, now you're not spending any energy. If you're spending all your energy doing that, you're not spending any energy envisioning better futures, more equitable futures, transformative futures. And we know as futurists that envisioning and getting people to envision those futures, what we talked about last month, the greatest weapon of our oppressors is the fact that they prevent us or try to prevent us from imagining possible futures,
Mhm.
better futures. They strip us from the agency and the time and the energy to even be able to imagine a better future. And so we fall prey to that dystopia. We become like betters. We actually follow along. We actually support that decision because that's the future we've rehearsed. We know as futurists who've done scenarios, who've done this work for a while, that rehearsing the future is one of the most powerful things that we can have.
Yep.
But it goes both ways. Are we rehearsing a dystopic future only?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be protesting and we shouldn't be pushing back, but how much of our energy is spent on that versus also expending energy, or some of us expending all of our energy on envisioning transformative, abundant futures and helping others see that those futures are possible. Let's workshop those futures.
Yeah, so powerful. There's so many things I could say. I don't even know where to start, but in all of this, it's reminding me a lot of Nora Bateson's famous poem, The Zombie Caterpillar. I always want to say caterpillar, but it's caterpillar.
I think the R is silent.
Caterpillar. Caterpillar.
Yeah.
And you know what's this poem is fascinating because she says, it's great to be a caterpillar, but then comes the day when it's time to transform into the butterfly. And if you actually know the process that happens from caterpillar to butterfly, it's really quite messy.
It's violent.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the caterpillar literally dies and dissolves, and it like turns into a gooey mush, sort of gross.
Yeah.
And then out of that is reformulated this butterfly inside. I mean, that's magic.
Totally.
I don't even know what's happening. That's what kind of magic is this?
Yeah.
Um, and so the caterpillar in her poem, when faced with becoming a butterfly, says like, I don't want to do it because the caterpillar is,
I'm good, thanks.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm good. Because first of all, I don't want to, I like being a caterpillar.
Yeah, I feel really good about this. I've been a caterpillar for a while. I feel
It
like
might not be the best. I'm crawling around,
but I don't
but
know
I
any
know it.
different. I don't know any different. I know
Yeah.
this.
It's,
I'm a freaking amazing caterpillar.
yeah.
My caterpillar ass is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
I own caterpillar.
I see the problems with being a caterpillar, but it came down from heaven. We're supposed to be caterpillars.
Right.
In the environment that I'm in, the system I'm in,
Sure.
this must have been
Yeah.
heaven sent
Sure.
because we're living in it. We're
Yeah.
in it,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
sure, birds might pick me off
Yeah.
and eat me, and I really don't have a lot of mobility
And sure, I
options.
can't fly, but we're not meant to
We're
fly.
not meant
We're
to
not
fly.
meant to fly.
Who are we
Yeah.
to say we should be flying as
Yeah.
caterpillars?
I'm not supposed to be
That's
colorful. We're
nope,
supposed to be, you know,
nope.
although some
Blend
chemicals.
in,
Yeah.
blend right in.
Right. And plus, I don't want to die because I know what the process
Yeah,
is.
no,
It
that sounds
means
horrible.
turning into goo.
No, I'm gonna
Something else
fight it.
can emerge,
Yeah, I'm
right?
gonna fight it.
And I don't know. The emergence scares me because it's the unknown. Even though I've seen butterflies,
Yeah, yeah.
I can't imagine what it means to
No,
transition into
no.
that, to be that, to do that. It's just
Seems
scary. It's just
seems
so
real
scary.
questionable.
Yeah.
The grass isn't always greener, friend.
Yeah. This to me
And
ties.
those butterflies have a bit of an attitude, if I may say.
They do have a bit of an
They
attitude. They think they're all
don't sting
that.
and they're flying around.
All that. Yeah.
And they forget from where they came from.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite poems by my friend Nora, and it ties into what I was saying last time about the third attractor and Jonathan Rowson, because he says we all know we're in a polycrisis. We all know we're in a meta crisis. We all know we're in a perma crisis, or whatever else you want to call the crisis. This convergence of crises that are causing, this just overwhelming sense of dread and despair and fear and apocalypse and worry and all of this stuff. And it's breaking systems. And here's the deal. It's true. However, and I don't think this is the case, if somebody were actually behind the screen, sort of like the Wizard of Oz,
The puppet master.
yeah, running a crisis, it actually would behoove them to an extent.
Oh no, for sure. And there's some orchestration of crises currently.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because crisis keeps you in crisis mode.
Absolutely.
And now you're always fighting.
And you're not thinking about what's possible because
you're
just trying to survive.
You stay as the caterpillar.
You're trying to protect yourself, which
literally
again.
And so now I'm going to say something that's really probably a little frustrating.
Okay.
Frustrating for me, for sure.
All right.
Definitely something that most people would not. If anybody heard this in the future, if it were at some major, say, they played this over the loudspeakers at some major, say, Futures conference on the other side of the world, most people would just be like, shut that off, we got work to do. So here it comes. First of all, let me preface by saying Jonathan Rowson says that we need to have a crisis-free mindset if we're going to be able to see a world worth living for.
Okay.
That doesn't mean ignoring the fact that we're in a crisis. It means responding to crisis by not being drugged down by the gravity of crisis, but rather understanding there's no way around this. The only way is through.
Okay.
And through is not by always looking backwards over our shoulder and fighting it. It's by looking to what is on the other side of crisis and moving towards that in intentional and purposeful ways. That is foresight is resistance. That's how we get to the crisis. 1. 2, here's the second thing. And I was just earlier was calling this good intention foresight, where we say like, okay, we want to do what's good. We want to do what's right. I go to this big conference on the other side of the world with, all these futurists gathered around, and we're going to talk about all the trends and the mega trends and all of the technologies and all this that we know somewhere in the back of our mind were built on the gravity well, built by the gravity well, and are meant with the ethics and morals that are inserted into the building of them themselves, or the birth of them was from the matrix of extraction and exploitation. See, this is the part that's not popular because it's like what I'm basically talking about is your trend list from last year. You go to South by Southwest, somebody's handing out the trend list. There's 400 trends in there, and they were all built on the back of extraction and exploitation. If we had a different world, I don't even think those trends would be the trends.
Yeah.
So I'm not poo-pooing trend analysis and scanning and all this. I understand this is where we are, and there's an element of this. But I want you to challenge that. I want you to think about this because the reality is we can't take some of those trends and go like, I know this trend is extractive. It was made by the oligarchs. It was handed down to me as
Literally,
something that, yeah, literally
literally,
made by the oligarchs. But I
literally.
have to accept it as a trend that came from heaven. There could have been no other way. And it must be implemented because we know it's just a trend.
Well, and I would take it a step further because most, I don't know how many, maybe not most, but many people who practice foresight practice it as a way to peer around corners and see what's coming.
Correct.
And in combining those two, the dominant narrative of these, trends birthed out of the current system with the desire to inherently go along with it because we're just trying to see what's
To
coming.
reinforce the dominant narrative,
Right.
right? Yeah, because
It's a 1-2 punch.
this is why I mentioned the caterpillar. It's so easy for us to be well-intentioned, me included, and not realize we're the caterpillar.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is we're saying like, look, can't you see we're all caterpillars?
Yeah.
Who wants to who even thinks there's a different system? I've made to be a caterpillar. We're not supposed to be something else,
Yeah.
right? Caterpillar kingdom. And we don't realize it. And so the caterpillar is not a bad thing. It has its role and
Yeah.
its function and,
Yeah.
and all of that. But that's just good intention, foresight.
Yeah.
Because I say, like, I'm going to take this extractive and exploitative thing that was made for me to remain in the relevant dominant narrative, to swallow that, right? And I'm going to try to plug it into transformation. The two shall never meet.
Yeah.
But we do our best. And that's why the frustration continues because we're taking these ideas that are non-transformative, the trends, the issues, and we call them emerging, but they're not because they come from the extractive system. And we try to see our way forward in resistance and in abundance and in transformation without hospicing that stuff, right? And then moving into, and that's called defying gravity. What I'm trying to say here, just briefly, because I know you're saying the same thing too, it's like defying gravity sounds exciting and fun. It is exciting, but I don't know how fun it is because it means literally having a message about the future that is very different from the one that we hear today. And that's why people like Dugelheim, Bayo Kumalafe this past week, he's in Brazil right now filming a movie about this. They all say the future is dead. The future is dead. That doesn't mean that we can't imagine transformative futures, but the future is the official future, the path we're on, the caterpillar path.
Yeah.
And the only way to defy gravity is to hospice the future, the one we're all supposed to receive trends from, trends list of, reinforce, get on the bandwagon with. What's wrong with you? Don't you understand that you're bucking against the system? Think of Elphaba again, flying around the castle, and they're like, get out of here. She's wicked. Get out of here. And she's like, I'm the only one telling you the truth. And until we hospice the future, we will never see transformational futures. We won't defy gravity.
Yeah. I was going to say that the hospicing component, I mean, I'm not the only one that has said this. This is not a new thought, but like clearly part of what we're seeing in the US and abroad with the oppressive authoritarianism and oligarch governments is the death throes of white nationalistic patriarchy,
colonial settler, extractive exploitation.
And it's a violent death.
A lot of words.
It's a violent death, and it's when something knows that it is on the cusp of death, it will fight.
Yes.
Tooth and nail to remain alive, to remain relevant.
And one of the biggest ways it does that is to just replicate a crisis over and over because it gets you in crisis.
No, and to break the law.
You can never defy gravity.
They know there's no other option for them. This is their last shot.
That's right.
And I say that because I think again it's super easy, and I'm guilty of this as well, to fall into this the trap of like, oh gosh, this is awful, like we're in the bad place, we're in the bad place. And it's easy to forget that no, we're not alone in this. Many more of us believe in equity and in these words that now have been in essence outlawed by our government. And, we don't ever want to have seen this in our lifetimes, but here we are. And so, what can we do? What can we do as futurists and as foresight professionals to support our communities? We can certainly do the boycotts and the protesting and the calling our senators and doing all of those things, the mutual aid, all of those things are very important. But what can we uniquely do? What are we uniquely positioned to do as foresight professionals that know the skill set, the toolkit, and the frameworks of foresight? And this is where another wicked comes in. The reason why we love this idea of the year of defying gravity is obviously it's a play on Wicked, the musical, and now Wicked, the movie. But we've been talking about Wicked and Wicked opportunities before this
A
year,
long time, a
a
long
long
time.
time. And for those of you that might be newer to our practice, to our brand, to our family, we just thought we would briefly share a little bit of, what Wicked Opportunities is, where that idea came from, and why it's so critically important now in 2025, and how we're going to walk alongside all of you to bring forth wicked opportunity, aspirational futures to our world, and offset what is currently plaguing our world. So
Yeah,
really briefly, because we've talked a lot already, and I just want to make sure we have time to
we
dive
have.
into
Um,
what's coming up this year.
well, the Wicked Opportunities brand and function that we carry within the stuff that we do comes from Horst Riddle's idea of wicked problems, which relates back to the crisis mind again, because what Horst was saying in design and engineering way back is that the more complexity increases, here's the part that doesn't usually get added in, but I'm going to add it this time. The more complexity increases, and that we try to maintain our same level of problem solving, then when we try to solve a problem, because we're not solving unto the maturing of complexity, these are wicked problems because they're more complex and we haven't met that complexity. When we go to solve them under the old way of thinking, that we only increase the problem factors. So every time we create a solution to a wicked problem, we only create three or four or five or who knows how many more problems.
We don't solve the problem, we create more problems.
That's right. So in an environment of increasing complexity, what has to happen is we need to lean into the complexity instead of saying like, oh, the same level that created the problem will be the one that will be able to solve it as it increases. As Einstein says, no, you need another level of consciousness.
Yeah.
We have to lean into the complexity. And therefore, wicked, which is really, when you look it up, it can mean evil, but it can also mean complex. Something that's wicked is very complex, right?
Right.
Then that means lean into it because in the complexity, you'll find the co-creativity that is loaded with abundance, with opportunities. And so wicked problems, now that you understand what that means, can be flipped on its head and become wicked opportunities, lean in complexity to find the opportunities of what's trying to emerge.
Yeah. And said another way, we're struggling with these complex problems because we're trying to use our outdated mindsets and toolkits and the current system to try to tackle them. And we're seeing complexity as the enemy. When in fact, complexity affords us incredible opportunities, right? We can have these conversations with a global audience. We can solve a pandemic with vaccines in record time. This is because of complexity. And so what we lack is the ability and the upgrade to our OS, if you will, to see the complexity, as you said, as something that we can leverage and see the opportunities within that complex environment. As you said, what's trying to emerge.
That's
So,
right.
wicked opportunities, from a historical perspective for us, started as an innovation program that leveraged foresight, and then in 2020, we, like many of our brethren, decided that the podcast angle and distribution was going to be super popular. And so we started the Wicked Opportunities podcast in 2020. That was the original year we started it. And then
That's
later
right.
on, we added the live stream, and it's gone through several collections. The Wicked Opportunities podcast
Boy,
has.
remember when we used to first record the podcast? Because we had this little room in another office and we
Yeah.
set up two tables and put our mics up and
Yeah.
sat in there. And it was, and I remember not being very much light either. It was so
Yeah.
dark in there. We were
Yeah. Yeah.
recording in the
Yeah.
dark. So that was a little
It was
weird.
also 2020. So there was
Yeah.
a whole host of darkness that,
Wah, wah.
but um, as we thought about again what we could bring to the table in 2025, we discussed how, our ability to gather our community and the community that we've already gathered is really a strength, and that people need to commune and collaborate this time more than ever with individuals that they feel safe around, and that we can help explore these aspirational visions and provide hope. And so to that end, you'll see that we've talked more about My TFSX and the fact that we have the community on there, the collective. You're starting next week, the Dragonfly Journey.
So excited.
That's a community of practice that's centered around holoptic foresight dynamics and futures consciousness. So if you haven't looked into that, that's going to be a great guided experience. And those are going to be really special because those communities of practice are not going to be recorded. So, if you want to take part in that, if you want to join that first gathering, and there's going to be, I think, a total of 5 of them in the
Throughout the
calendar
year.
year. Yeah. Then you need to be a member of the collective. It's part of your membership to the collective is these guided experiences. So in addition to that one, we wanted to be able to host something that would align with the Wicked Opportunities brand, which is
Yes.
really about future empowerment. So if the Dragonfly Journey is about futures consciousness and our foundations programs and all the things that we're known about in our toolkit and all that is future readiness, then Wicked Opportunities is future empowerment. And in future empowerment, we wanted, again, our members of the collective that are going to be joining us to be able to gather around hope and find hope that is latent in the idea of wicked opportunities.
Yeah.
And so we decided to revisit the original collection of podcasts, which remains probably our most popular collection of podcasts, right?
Yeah, and I feel like it never got its full due
Yeah.
because, I mean, that's patting ourselves on the back a little bit, but what the reason it's more relevant than ever is because it ties into exactly everything we've just said.
Yep.
Not carrying water for the trends that are coming out of an extractive
Yep.
matrix to begin with, an extractive womb to begin with, but instead, uh, leveraging foresight to see what transformation could look like if we hospice the old and transform into the new.
Yeah.
And it's the most powerful part of foresight, imaginal anticipation, not trend hunting,
Yeah.
imaginal anticipation. And it's what we need to stop carrying water for the old and really lean into the
Yeah.
new.
And I actually misspoke. I said that the original sort of manifestation of wicked opportunities was the innovation program, but it really wasn't. It was the Rotman Management magazine article that I'm seeing framed
That's
in
right.
front of
At
us,
the other end of the
where
studio.
you wrote for Rotman Management magazine out of the University of Toronto. You wrote a piece called Wicked Opportunities: 7 Shifts in the Age of Opportunity. And you talked about these 7 value shifts that are still valid today. And those 7 valued shifts were the first time that we really gave this idea of wicked opportunities a name. And so from there we started the program that leveraged foresight and did innovation, and then we did the podcast, and the first collection of podcasts paid homage to those 7 shifts. And so if you were around, that first collection of podcasts was 7 months of weekly podcasts, and each month focused on one of those 7 shifts
Yes.
and used foresight tools like CLA and trend cards and all, these great set of tools to walk every month. We started with a wicked problem, a huge complex problem, and we showed the audience, we described, we walked the walk to reframing that wicked opportunity, that wicked problem as a wicked opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 2025, there's no better time than to dust those ideas off because they are still even more relevant now. And so over the next few months, what we want to do is add a discussion element to those podcasts
It's
and
fantastic.
update them as we go along. And we're going to invite you to join us
Yes.
on that experience. And what we hope and what we know will happen is that you will get hope from this experience. You will get tools and methods and practice to allow you, as our 3.5%, to go back out to your communities and empower them as well. So we can think of no better way to shepherd a future empowered movement than through Wicked Opportunities. And so over the next few months, over the next 7 months, we will go one
Mm.
by one month by 1 month. And if you're on the collective as a member of the collective, as if you have a subscription to my TFSX, not only do you get the Dragonfly, you also have access to a course where we've curated all of these resources together for you. So
It's
it's
amazing.
super
It's
easy.
really awesome.
It's a self-directed experience in the sense that that lesson will drop. There's already a lesson there. And we're going to ask you that if you want to participate actively in this, and we hope that you do, that you will listen to the group of podcasts, 4 podcasts, in advance of the live stream where we're going to be discussing it. So next month, which is March, I can't believe we're already talking about March.
Crazy.
In March, we have our next live stream. In that live stream, we're going to talk about getting over and moving beyond scarcity, the scarcity mindset. We're going to talk about abundance in March. We're going to hit it hard. And so, how do we make more pie, basically, is what we're going to be talking about. So, between now and then, if you want to join us on this journey to have hope and thrive in the midst of these crises, then I encourage you to become a member, unlock those 4 episodes, listen to them. We also have the map that was created by our graphic illustrator
Yes.
as part of the course.
Yes.
Really absorb that, and then we're going to have the live stream in March be a live discussion about those topics,
Mhm.
how they relate to 2025 events, and how you can make a change and transformation in your own networks and sphere of influence. So that's sort of the way
I
that
love
that
it.
it's going to work.
It's such a powerful way for us to reinforce what we're saying here, to actively dive into, transforming from the caterpillar to the butterfly, to break away from that gravity well of fear,
Yeah.
to stop carrying water for the old. Again, your intentions can be good. My intentions can be good, but we have to come to some realization that I'm still carrying water for the gravity well,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it only exacerbates the crisis. It only exacerbates,
Yeah.
that system. It only causes it to say, you must want me to stay around.
Yeah.
You keep doing what you're doing in service of me.
We talked about this last time. It's like I'm just doing my job,
Yep.
and now
Yep.
there are very clear calls, and it's difficult. Like, we have to, you have to think about the ethical ramifications of your decisions, your actions, and your inactions. And, the call from us is we're willing to stick our necks out. We're willing to be courageous because we know what's at
Yep.
stake. Are you? Are you? And if you are, then we're ready to go
Mm,
lockstep with you
mm.
and support you. What I love about Wicked Opportunities, I love all our offerings. I love the foundations of it all with the tools and the methods. Even though sometimes it could feel like, okay, we're working to sort of, sell more of the same. And I love, of course, the transformation embedded in futures consciousness, in holoptic foresight dynamics, and what you're doing with the dragonfly. But the future empoweredness of Wicked Opportunities for me as an adaptive leader
Yeah, it
is
bridges.
that
It
bridge. And
is
I
so
just love
powerful.
it because I get to, yes, embrace transformation and say, I want to be that butterfly at the same time that I'm thinking, how do I actually do this? Like, what do we do? What do we do? Because I'm an activator. I
Yeah.
need to be doing
Yes.
things. I
Yes.
need to be doing things. And
Yes.
so,
Kelly was saying on here,
yeah,
Kelly Evans, she's
I
so
I have to tell you that, friends, I want you to feel the peace that I felt over the last few weeks and months. Now, I'm not saying that there hasn't been
Mixed with
tears
bad, right?
and dread. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's hard to feel abundant when things aren't abundant, right? But I will say that I felt a warmth sort of come over me when I literally came to the realization and really leaned into I know what I should be doing. And I'm telling you, if you're listening to my voice, you know what you need to be doing too. And you're not alone. Again, what I love about this opportunity to commune with one another, to collaborate on this platform, and to do so purposefully. So whether you're drawn to the Dragonfly journey or whether you're drawn to this Wicked Opportunities program to
Or all of
thrive,
it.
or whether you're, yeah, or
You'll
whether
get
you
the whole
are,
you'll get the whole picture.
if you don't get to, you don't have to choose. You could do
Yeah.
all of those things, but you might find yourself naturally
Yeah.
gravitating, speaking
Yes.
of gravity, to one of the offerings. The goal here is to offer an expansive
Yeah. Yes.
portfolio and to make that community offering something purposeful. Because look, we're all about like I can mindlessly go to a community, I can mindlessly go here or there, but when I know I'm going there for a
Yeah.
purpose, I'm going there. I'm going to watch. I'm going to listen to these podcasts. I'm going to watch the live stream, all of those resources, or I'm going to go and I'm going to have a community of practice. That community becomes that much more valuable. Here's the thing, friends. We cannot count on the algorithms on the platforms owned by the tech companies. We cannot. Our messages aren't getting through. We know that it's being shadow banned, it's being sequestered. We know, and
It's
it's
also
all
not a safe space. And I don't
exact.
just mean in terms of privacy.
Yeah.
It's like it's not a place for us to be vulnerable,
Nope.
courageous, transformative. It's just not, it's
Yeah.
not a conducive place for that in any way, shape, or
Yeah.
form.
So we encourage you to join us on the platform, and we're 2,500 strong now on that platform, over 2,500, and I just know that over the next year we're going to see explosive growth. And the more people that we can have, we multiply ourselves. We learn from each other. We have so many exciting things happening. We're going to be announcing in the next few weeks the opportunity to become a host. We're piloting that program now where folks could bring their own communities into my TFSX and participate in 30-day foresight challenges. So if you're interested in that, keep your eyes out, keep your ears out. We're going to be sharing more information about that. But we have dedicated ideas and plans. And if you're only able to join us on these live streams, fantastic. We commit to continuing to offer live streams and the GFAC lives and other opportunities completely outside the berm of my TFSX. But the reason why we're consciously creating the spaces, as Frank said, we need a safe space where it's clear that the folks that are in that space are there to create aspirational and transformational futures, that the folks that are in that space believe in science, that they believe in equal rights, that they believe that equity is not a bad word, it's diversity is not a bad word,
They
and that
believe in
inclusion.
indigenous voices. They believe in
Absolutely.
multiple voices. I know we need to wrap up now, and I thank everybody for joining us. But I wanted to say before we left that, you were talking about the bridge of wicked opportunities
Yes.
between the future readiness, where you learn the natural foresight framework, which, by the way, isn't just like we're reinforcing more the same as it. When
No.
you learn the natural foresight framework, you start to break free from the
Yeah,
gravity,
so true.
and then all the way to the future consciousness piece, which is there's this universal consciousness that taps into the future's consciousness. Talk about Katrina, not Karina, earlier, saying that this I think this way all the time. And that bridge place, it's really interesting. We had a client yesterday say, like, oh, wouldn't it be great if there was a tool where it's like, I only want to think about 2027 right now, but I know it's going to lead me to 2035 and leave me. And I'm thinking, like, I originally pitched this to you. It's called transformational mapping, but okay, we'll pretend like you just made that up.
If
But
only there was a
if
way.
only there was a way. And so I had to keep my mouth shut during that. But here I am saying it, it's like that middle space is a way to break free from the old
Yeah.
and to map towards transformation or higher order purpose
Yeah.
of the new.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so beautiful, so
There's
powerful.
so
And
many.
I would send every company leader in the world to that training if I could and say,
Yeah.
stop only doing this analytical
Yeah.
insights, consumer insight stuff and all that. Break free and move into transformational mapping and see something different, which will be so much more powerful for you.
And here's the deal, like there's small ways that you can influence this, and I hope that this comes through as we walk along this journey this year. Again, if you're interested, I want you to join us on My TFSX as a member of the collective. This will grant you access to the Dragonfly journey as well as the Wicked Opportunities course, which is thriving in
And just the
uncertainty.
discussion boards and
Yeah, all of the
but
things,
the
the
recipes, the
toolkits,
toolkits, the
absolutely.
videos.
But
Gosh, there's so much
but
stuff.
one of the things that I think you will learn is, yesterday was a great example. So yesterday I was asked to facilitate a webinar for Skip.
Skip,
Yeah.
the
It's used to be the
competitive
society. It's used to be
intelligence.
competitive intelligence. That's like consortium of intelligence professionals.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it's still Skip though, right?
Yeah. They
So
kept
it's
the
the
acronym.
Society Consortium,
I don't know.
Social
I don't
Consortium
know what the S stands
of
for.
Intelligence
They wanted to
Professionals.
get away from just being competitive intelligence, is what I
Yeah.
was getting at, right?
Right.
It used to be
Wonder
strategy.
why they
It
wanted to
used to
do
be,
that.
it used to be strategy and competitive intelligence. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is because if you missed it, I was on that webinar. I shared the results of the Ask a Futurist Volume 1. If you
Yes.
haven't seen that,
Another thing.
it's a great resource where we, collected from over 100 questions that were submitted, 15 top questions about, integrating foresight. And by the way, last 2 days of our Ask the Futurist Volume 2. So if you
It's
haven't
happening right now. Yeah.
opted in for that, you can contribute a question around the scenario practice.
Volume 2 is all about scenario practice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and by opting in, not only do you get first dibs on the completed resource once we compile it, but you also, if you're interested, can be entered into a raffle to get free training in one of our programs
Every
this
time you
year.
say raffle, I think about the cakewalk in elementary
Yeah,
school.
yeah,
They're like, "Come on, you
yeah,
can win
yeah,
a
yeah.
German chocolate cake."
Anyway, I was at the Skip thing yesterday. I was doing this webinar, and I'm pretty sure they didn't know what to expect from my
Yeah.
webinar. And even if they did know, I did not deliver
They
what
either
they
loved it or they said we chose the wrong speaker. Right?
tell you that
That's the way it
I've
works
gotten
for us.
better
Yeah.
response from those attendees than I have in a long time
Yes.
at one of these free
See,
webinars.
see,
But I'm
see.
saying I'm not sure if Skip leadership is all that
That's
exciting.
so
The reason
what?
I say that is
So what?
because I didn't pull any punches.
That's right.
And so when I
Nor
talked
should
about
you.
foresight, I talked about the fact that we have an ethical obligation. And
Yeah.
so in that 60 minutes, I reached, I think there were 30 something people on
Yeah.
there, and more people will watch the recording. And I could have stuck to the proverbial script, quote unquote,
Yeah.
and I didn't. I used my platform, and you all have a platform of, whatever the size is. You have a platform. You have influence, even if it's 2 people, 3 people, 300
That's all
people.
it takes.
You have a platform, and it is your obligation, your moral obligation to use that platform. You have the skills, you have the talent, you have the ability. Let us support you in
Yeah.
that. Let us
It's also
support you in that.
life-giving. It's a moral obligation, but it's just life-giving. And so if you dive into this, reach your 2 people.
Yeah.
It's generative.
It really is. It really is. And
Yeah.
this is why, when this gave me so much hope, which
Yeah.
is what drives us to continue to offer these opportunities to you all, because we want you to unlock this hope too. Marcy was there. Thank you
Um,
for, Marcy's a super fan,
yeah.
super fan.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
But I was gonna say Marcy, is one of the newly holding
Yes.
certified
Yes.
foresight
You
practitioners.
go, girl.
So, yeah.
Anyway, well, thank you all for joining us this morning, this afternoon, this evening, depending on where you're joining. We encourage you, we invite you to defy gravity, to push against the authoritarian, dystopic voices and visions of the future. Do not workshop their future.
Don't workshop. Don't carry their water.
Don't carry their water. Workshop the future we want to create. And you can do that as we go alongside you the next 7 months with the Wicked Opportunities program.
There's
So
there's a
listen.
lot more to foresight than trends.
Yeah.
On beyond trends, as Dr. Seuss would
Yeah.
say. Wait, he said on beyond zebra, but I'm saying on beyond trends. There's something more.
So check out what is going on my TFSX. Join us for this course. Your homework is to listen to the first 4 podcasts in the collection. It's very clear in the course which ones those are. Next month, when we gather together in March, we'll be talking about that first month's collection of podcasts. We'll be talking about flipping the script on scarcity and finding abundance where you might not think there is any. And it will be practical, it'll be actionable, and it'll give you a way forward to activate and to work against what's happening in our world right now and have hope. So I hope that you all can join us. Thank you so much, Mr. Spencer.
Same to you, Yvette.
And it was
Was I
fabulous.
supposed to say Mrs.
I don't know what you were
Salvatico?
doing. You were a little lost.
Felt a
Anyway,
little awkward right there. I just feel like I've done it longer than that. So
everybody have a
thank you,
great
Sheila
weekend.
and Kelly. It's
Yes,
so great to have you
everybody.
here.
Yes.
And yeah, no, you carry the torch for us. That's
Yes.
why, I mean, I can actually say that honestly.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, with the 1 minute left, let me just say that.
Timothy too.
Oh, and Timothy, yes, it's so good. Oh, I miss Timothy so much
I
face to
know.
face.
I
I
know.
want to smell that cologne.
I think
So delicious.
I think a lot of these friends are going to be at your Dragonfly next
I
week.
can't wait. I can't wait. I'm so excited. We've already been diving into the discussion because we have pre-discussions before the live sessions.
Yeah.
You know, last night on that podcast, we'll end with this. Rowena was saying, she started off talking about courage. And she was basically saying courage, when we think of courage under our present patriarchal colonial, we think about plant the flag and get the sword out and slay the dragon and go into the battle. But she said, but real courage is slowing down and being still and breaking free and letting this enter into you. And then when you can't contain it any longer, you have to say something and you have to do something. And that's what real courage is.
I'm going to practice that today.
Yeah.
All right. You all have a great
Love you.
rest of your
Love
day.
you, everyone. Take
Bye-bye,
care. We'll
everybody.
see you soon.
Bye-bye.